Adrian N. Breitfelder, City Clerk, you're hereby directed to call a regular session of the City Council to be held on Monday, May 20th, 2024, at 6:30 p.m. in the historic Federal Building for the purpose of conducting such business that may properly come before the City Council.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to a regular session of the Dubuque City Council for May 20th, 2024. As a reminder to our participants, you can provide in-person input or virtual audio and written input during the sections of the agenda where public input is accepted. Input options during the live meeting include in-person attendees may approach the podium when the Mayor Pro Tem asks if there is any public input on the item they would like to speak to. Remote attendees can log into GoToMeeting using the login links, phone numbers, and access code that appear on the broadcast and live stream and posted on the front page of the meeting agenda. This option includes audio input and written chat input. If you are participating via computer, indicate which item you would like to speak to in the chat function or note that you would like to speak during the appropriate section. If you are participating via phone, indicate which item you would like to speak to during the appropriate section. All comments, whether in person or virtual, must be accompanied by a name and address. Additionally, written public input is accepted by contacting the City Council directly from the city's webpage at www.cityofdubuque.org/council-contacts and through the City Clerk's office email at ctyclerk@cityofdubuque.org. This information will be reiterated during the meeting. Attendance for the session is as follows. Mayor Pro Tem Jones.
Here.
Council members Farber.
Here.
Resnick.
Here.
Thank you. Roussel.
Here.
Sprank.
Here.
Wethel.
Here.
City Manager Van Milligan.
Here.
And City Attorney Brumwell.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Jones, I will turn it over to you for the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right. Invite all who are able to please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I will announce that we do have a change to tonight's agenda. Public hearing number 4, the 2024 pavement marking project, is removed from the meeting. We will move on to proclamations. Our first proclamation is Apples for Students Month.
I think we're going to see a little bit from Beth McGorry and our friends from St. Mark's. You want to come up and receive the proclamation and tell us a little bit about why we're doing this?
My name is Beth McGorry, and I'm the Director of Donor Relations at St. Mark Youth Enrichment. First, I want to ask you, if you're able to, close your eyes and take a deep breath. And remember that day you cracked open your first package of crayons. And smell the crayons. And think of all of the adventures you can go on with crayons. That's what we get to do for Apples for Students and fill the bag every year. This is my favorite project. We get to do a lot of really cool things at St. Mark, but I gotta tell you, it's like Christmas kid in a candy store kind of deal for me with school supplies. But the opportunity to serve over 41,000 children in this community over the last 20 years. And the hard part for me is that there were 20,000 or 40,000 children who needed school supplies. This year with 36,000, we still don't hit them all. We're serving all of our kids in Title I schools, so Marshall, Audubon, Lincoln, and Prescott. Every child in that school will get a bag of school supplies. And then we're going to take care of all of the rest of the kids who need it. We never say no. The opportunity for a kid to feel good on that first day in a world where we are always trying to look different and be different. When you're living at or under the poverty level, you don't want anyone to know. And so on those days, they're getting the exact same school supplies as everyone else, and they get to keep that side of their life private. And I'll never forget my first year, and I'm sure Grandma helped him write this note, but it was, "Dear St. Mark, thank you for helping me feel normal." And that's the deal. So every child gets to feel good. Every child gets to start at the same playing field on the first day of school, because we know that some of them didn't have breakfast that morning. We know some of them were stressed out the days before. We know that mom might not have been able to get food that week. We know that her stress of, do I buy school supplies or pay for food? That is an important thing, and our kids feel that every day. They feel all of the stressors that we bring to our families. The kids feel everything. And so when this community comes together, because you do, people, you all come together. The city of Dubuque has come together and brought some money to our table this year, so we're so thankful. We have to raise over $100,000 to take care of our kids, and I know we can do it. So I encourage you to buy an extra bag for as many kiddos as you've got at home. Take a deep breath and go, I can help one more kid, and we will take care of all of these kids together.
Thank you, Beth. City of Dubuque proclamation. Whereas since 1988, St. Mark Youth Enrichment has existed to work with the families of Dubuque to meet some of the unmet needs of their children. And whereas St. Mark's Youth Enrichment staff, committees, and board are dedicated to furthering the total learning experience of all children they work with. And whereas St. Mark Youth Enrichment will again be leading the Apples for Students Fill the Bag program in the Dubuque community during the months of May, June, and July. This program collects money to buy basic school supplies for children and families who need help purchasing them. To date, St. Mark Youth Enrichment has given out over 41,000 bags of school supplies. And whereas local schools and human service agencies help St. Mark Youth Enrichment identify the 3,500 children in grades K through 12 who need school supplies this year. And whereas St. Mark Youth Enrichment invites the people of Dubuque to donate money to this program so school supplies can be purchased in bulk from local merchants and serve more children than they usually do. Now therefore I, Rick Jones, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Dubuque, Iowa, do hereby proclaim that the months of May, June, and July be designated for the collection of money to buy basic school supplies for needy children in the City of Dubuque, and urge the people of Dubuque to participate in this worthwhile project by supporting St. Mark Youth Enrichment in their effort toward helping our children. That was just part one.
Oh, I'm back. Beth McGorry, Director of Donor Relations, St. Mark Youth Enrichment. But right now I'm here to talk about the Summer Learning Cooperative. We as a community have, I would say, struggled with bringing together summer learning and making sure all of our kids have safe places to be and connections to reading. Over the last 9 months, we've had a group connected and getting together to make it a safer and better place for our kids after school. And our team from Parents as Teachers with Hillcrest, our librarians. Oh my gosh, you want to have a problem, bring it to a librarian and they're going to help solve it. So our libraries all through the county, but Asbury and downtown Dubuque have really been great partners in this. And all of us who are creating safe spaces, whether we're at the Y, St. Mark, Boys and Girls Club, Dream Center, we're all getting together to really create this space where our kids can thrive and enter that first day of school back where they should be. Because what we do know is that worksheets aren't going to solve the problem. Loving and caring human beings bringing books and reading to kids is going to solve that problem for our kids with the lower reading scores and just even understanding that learning should be fun. Learning can be at a beautiful moment where when all of a sudden you're flying at 4 mounds, because they do fly at St. Mark at 4 mounds, and all of a sudden the next week you're reading about a book and you can feel the wind in your hair, and all of a sudden you're caught. And you're like, this is what adventures feel like in a book? And all of a sudden, the world is your oyster. You get to go anywhere you want to in a book, and all of a sudden, you're wanting to go to be at school on time, so your absenteeism is taken care of, and your kids they desire to learn. And when we get our group together, we talk about that, the desire for all of us to be together and learning. And this community is really working hard to wrap around all of that with leisure services, with the City of Dubuque, all of our connections together, because that's the only way we're going to solve this for our kids, is if we're doing this together and we're walking together. And it's been a great joy to work with these amazing people. And we will be celebrating once summer programs start, and you will all be invited to lots of fun things. And we encourage you to say yes. We encourage you to go, what is someone else doing in our community to make our children's lives better? And so I ask you to say yes in that opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you, Beth. City of Dubuque proclamation. Whereas the Summer Learning Cooperative has provided significant leadership in the area of community involvement in the education and well-being of our youth, grounded in the principle that quality summer programs are key to helping our children become successful adults. And whereas Summer Learning Week is a week to reflect on the importance of keeping youth learning safe and healthy every summer, ensuring that they return to school in the fall ready to succeed in the year ahead. And whereas summer learning programs are proven to maintain and advance students' academic and social growth, keep children safe and healthy during the summer, and whereas a wide array of public agencies, community-based organizations, schools, libraries, museums, recreation centers, camps, and businesses in our community contribute to the well-being of youth through summer programming, and whereas the City of Dubuque is committed to investing in the health and safety of all young people, and joyful summer learning experiences are a critical component of our collective effort to ensure Dubuque's educational recovery and that all students heal, grow, and thrive. Now, therefore, I, Rick Jones, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Dubuque, Iowa, on behalf of the City Council staff and residents of Dubuque, do hereby proclaim the third week of July 2024 as Summer Learning Week in the City of Dubuque, and request all residents to enthusiastically endorse and engage in innovative summer programs and activities that ensure all children have the opportunity to grow and be successful. Okay, going to invite the Honorable Council Member Susan Farber to the podium to accept the next proclamation.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and City Council, City Manager Van Milligan, City staff, and Dubuque residents. On behalf of the members of Temple Bethel, established in 1875, we are honored to receive this proclamation acknowledging May as Jewish American Heritage Month in the city of Dubuque. Since October 7th, the Hamas attack on Israel, the hatred toward Jews is terrifying. We have recently celebrated the holiday of Passover, which commemorates the freedom of Israelites from Egyptian slavery and our formation as a free Jewish people in our own land. But this Passover was like no other, with scores of hostages still in Gaza and Jews worldwide fearful for our future, including Jews in the U.S. This onslaught of hatred cannot become the new normal. This epidemic must be treated as a serious threat, a threat that strikes fear for the safety of loved ones in our community, across our nation, and around the world. Despite our diverse backgrounds, experiences, and beliefs, we are united by our shared humanity. It's crucial that we foster mutual respect and engage in civil discourse, especially during these turbulent times. Let's continue the dialogue, firmly denouncing hate speech and actions directed against anyone. When we speak of Jewish religious tradition, the guiding light is the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, a symbol of our circle of life. It has no beginning and no end. It is a circle, an infinite loop. Insights and new life lessons connect the Torah's storytelling that has been part of the Jewish historical fabric for generations. Transition from sadness to joy epitomizes the circle of life that the Jewish communities continually celebrate. The Torah, the circle of life, offers hope and optimism as we celebrate the vibrant heritage of Dubuque's Jewish community. Please join us as we stand against all forms of hate and bigotry and are united in our commitment to dignity, compassion, and justice for all residents of Dubuque. Shalom. And thank you once again for this proclamation.
I doubt that my delivery of these words can match yours of those. City of Dubuque proclamation. Whereas for 43 years, every president of the United States has declared a period each year for celebrating the contributions to the United States of the Jewish community's history, heritage, and culture. Since 2006, the month of May has been presidentially declared to be Jewish American Heritage Month, pursuant to the bipartisan resolution for Congress. And whereas Jewish immigrants to America, ever since their first arrival to our shores in the 16th century, have played a central role in the growth, freedom, prosperity, and strength of the United States of America. And whereas Temple Bethel, established in 1875, and its members of the Jewish faith endorse the tradition of May as Jewish American Heritage Month in Dubuque. And whereas the Jewish community has made significant contributions in shaping the cultural, economic, educational, government, science, technology, and other fields in the Dubuque community. And whereas by bringing Jewish American Heritage Month to Dubuque, we offer hope and optimism through the celebration of the vibrant heritage of the Jewish Americans who have enriched our lives. The contemporary history of the Jewish people and enduring values of the Jewish faith were vital sources of inspiration for the founding of the United States, the civil rights movement, America's global leadership in the cause of freedom, and commitment to social justice. And whereas local recognition of Jewish American Heritage Month matters now more than ever. Since the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel, Jews are facing the worst global anti-Semitism since the Holocaust, with many of our U.S. cities experiencing an increase in anti-Semitic incidents. The resurgence of this ancient hatred is a threat to not only Jewish people, but to all of us. And whereas we must continue this dialogue, denouncing the hate speech and actions directed against anyone, and urge mutual respect and discourse, standing against all forms of hate and bigotry, we remain united in our commitment to dignify compassion and justice for all residents of Dubuque. Now, therefore, I, Rick Jones, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Dubuque, Iowa, on behalf of the City Council staff and residents of Dubuque, do hereby proclaim this month of May 2024 as Jewish American Heritage Month in the City of Dubuque, Iowa, and urge all residents to celebrate and honor this occasion. And we have a representative or 12 from the Multicultural Family Center. Welcome. Hello,
Chuck Harris. I am one of the members of the LGBTQ Pride Festival Committee that is being hosted on June 1st, which is in reference to the proclamation, but just wanted to, again, thank you for doing this proclamation and making our city more welcoming and more open to all folks who identify as LGBTQ, and making that a priority for the city.
Thank you, sir. City of Dubuque proclamation. Whereas the City of Dubuque is a progressive and inclusive community that celebrates culture and heritage and supports efforts to ensure everyone has the right to live in conditions of dignity, respect, and peace. And whereas the City of Dubuque strives to offer our residents a safe community and to put an end to taunting, bullying, and intolerance. And whereas the City of Dubuque advocates for the elimination of all forms of discrimination and displays a commitment to the equal treatment of all people. We recognize the need for intersectionality, should have read that first, and work towards social justice as we understand there is no true equality until there is equity for all. And whereas in the City of Dubuque understands the importance for LGBTQ plus people to have access to excellent health care in LGBTQ affirmative environments, the necessity to have legal and institutional freedom to pursue their own lives as they wish, and the need to have their freedom and desire affirmed by the rest of the world. And whereas this proclamation in and of itself sends a positive message of validation to LGBTQ plus residents of Dubuque that the city embraces these individuals and their families as part of the community. Now, therefore, I, Rick Jones, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Dubuque, Iowa, on behalf of the City Council, staff, and residents of Dubuque, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2024 as LGBTQ plus Pride Month in the City of Dubuque, Iowa, and call upon the residents of Dubuque to observe this month with programs, activities, and ceremonies in recognition of our city's diversity, as well as the Pride Family Festival on June 1st from noon to 4 p.m., held outside the Multicultural Family Center at the corner of 11th Street and Central Avenue. Come on up. Who'd have thought? Okay, thank you.
Everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
We will move on next to consent items. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss one of the consent items, please approach the podium when the Mayor Pro Tem asks if there is any in-person input and state your name and address. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function or state your name and address over the phone when the Mayor Pro Tem asks if there's any virtual input. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Please state the item you would like removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and consideration, and consent items can be found on pages 2 through 6 of the agenda.
All right, is there anybody that would like to have anything on the consent agenda held for a separate discussion in the audience tonight? Seeing none, bring it back to the table. I'm sorry, are there any remote
There's not.
participants?
And no input received.
Nothing, okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Mr. Sell.
I move to receive and file, adopt the resolutions, and deal with consent items as recommended.
Second by Farber.
With a motion by Russell, seconded by Farber to receive and file, adopt the resolutions, and deal with as recommended. Adrian, you can call the roll.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye. Motion passes 6-1
6-0.
to 0. That's some bad math. Apologize for that.
Next are items set for public hearing. We have 3. The first one is First Amendment to Grant Agreement with Forward Investments Group, LLC, for the rehabilitation of 1047 Bluff Street for June 3rd, 2024. Second is resolution setting a public hearing on a proposed subordination agreement for DRLP Loan Number 2-23, 1199 Central Avenue for June 3rd, 2024. And third is resolution of necessity for the proposed amended and restated urban renewal plan for the South Point Housing Urban Renewal Area for June 17th, 2024.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Mr. Sell.
I move to receive and file, adopt the resolutions, and set the public hearings for the dates specified.
Second by Wethel.
Motion by Russell, second by Wethel. Any conversation? You can call the roll.
Nope, I think we're ready to, call the roll.
Ready to vote.
Okay. Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. Those items are set for public hearing and the dates and times specified.
Next are boards and commissions. We have appointment for the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Barber.
Yes, I move that we appoint Gwen Kozel to the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
Second by Sprank.
We have a motion by Farber and a second by Sprank to appoint Gwen Kozel to the 5-year term through March 25th, 2029. Any conversation about that? Adrian, you can call the roll.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0.
We will move on to public hearings. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss one of the public hearing items, please approach the podium when the Mayor Pro Tem asks if there is any in-person input for the public hearing you would like to speak to, and state your name and address. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function and state your question, or state your name and address over the phone when the Mayor Pro Tem asks if there is any virtual input for the public hearing you would like to speak to. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. And just a reminder that public hearing number 4, the 2024 pavement marking project, has been removed from the meeting. Our first public hearing is rezoning request 1100 Lincoln Avenue.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Mr. Sell.
I move to receive and file, and further move that a requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second by Wethel.
A motion by Russell, second by Wethel to suspend the 3 readings. Any conversation on that? I guess we go with the show here, don't we? Wally, you have a
Yes.
staff report for us.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council members. Wally Wernmott, Planning Services Director. The public hearing before you tonight is for 1100 Lincoln Avenue. It's owned by Jordan Rettenmeyer Properties. The request is to rezone property from R2A, alternate 2-family residential, and C1 neighborhood shopping center to R3, moderate density multifamily residential. The Zoning Advisory Commission held a public hearing on May 1st, and we did notify all property owners within 200 feet of the subject property. The property comprises of a large lot. It's actually multiple lots. They're looking at replatting it into 2 separate lots. There's an existing 2-story historic brick building on the corner that was a mixed use. That's the property zone C1. The vacant lot that's directly to the north of there is where they're looking at replatting in order to construct a 4-unit multifamily residential development. The request came before the Zoning Advisory Commission, and at that meeting, the staff detailed the lot configuration. They explained the difference between R3 zoning and R2A zoning, which is basically allowing up to a 6-plex. However, due to the lot size, which is a little over 8,000 square foot, only a 4-unit would be allowed at that location. It couldn't go up to 6 units. With the current zoning of the property as R2A, they could subdivide the property and actually build 2 duplexes. What they're actually proposing to do is create housing, which is kind of what they're referring to as the missing middle for zoning practices. It's those housing units that are 3 units to 12 units. This will actually be a 4-plex. We haven't had a 4-plex built for quite a while. But in this neighborhood, it's historical. There's mixed uses, smaller lot development, higher density. And through the rezoning process, the Zoning Advisory Commission made a recommendation that the City Council approve the request by a vote of 5-0. And a simple majority vote is all that's needed for City Council to approve the request. That's all I have, unless you guys have any questions.
Thank you, Wally. Okay, we are in a public hearing to consider a request from Jordan Rettmeyer to rezone 1100 Lincoln Avenue from R2A, alternate 2-family residential and C1 neighborhood shopping center to R3, moderate density multifamily residential, and the Zoning Advisory Commission is recommending approval. Is there anyone in chambers here to address us on this item? That looks pretty quiet. Do we have anybody virtually?
We do not.
Any comments in the clerk's office?
No input.
We'll bring it back to the table then. Mr. Resnick, you with us?
I'm with you, and I have no questions. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. We do have a motion then to waive the readings. A motion by Roussel, seconded by Whittle. You can call the roll on the motion to waive readings.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye. The waiver passed by 6-0.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Ms. Roussel.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Wethel.
Have a motion by Roussel, second by Wethel to adopt the ordinance. You can go ahead and call the roll.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye. That motion passes 6-0. Congratulations to Mr. Redmeyer. You're good to go. Get her done.
Public hearing number 2 is rezoning request 5501 Old Highway Road.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file, and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second by Sprank.
A motion by Roussel, second by Sprank to waive the readings. Wally.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council members. This public hearing is for 5501 Old Highway Road. The request to rezone property from a PUD plan unit development with a PR planned residential designation to C3 general commercial. The Zoning Advisory Commission held a public hearing on May 1st with this request. We did notify all property owners within 200 feet of the property, and we received no comments, and no one spoke at the public hearing in opposition to the request. Richard Beekler resides at 17333 Hupkey Road. He spoke on behalf of the application. He stated that he purchased the lot for a contractor shop. The existing property was zoned PR because it was annexed into the city in 2000 as it was an existing mobile home park. In 2000, when properties were brought in as mobile home parks, they were classified as PUDs. Since the purchase of the property and even prior to the purchase, the mobile homes were all removed, so now it's just a piece of vacant ground located there. Mr. Beekler is looking at living in the home that's adjacent to the property. This is a separate lot, rezoning to C3 general commercial, so he can operate a contractor shop that he owns. All along Old Highway Road, which is a minor arterial, there's a mix of uses of types of zoning. Directly adjacent to this property, beside the single-family home that Mr. Beekler owns, is the Armory building for the U.S. National Guard. Directly across the street, we have a mixed use of Tri-State Diagnostics, which is an auto repair business. We have some single-family home development, but then also C3 is located directly across the property, and we actually have a piece of property too that's being discussed for a future commercial subdivision down the road with regards to that. The staff discussed that there are a mix of zoning districts, like I mentioned before, with the C3. They did discuss, in addition to the location of water and sanitary sewer to the site, this would require a site plan for new construction here, and it would go through the development review team. Based on the zoning, the commission discussed the location of the property, and they felt it was appropriate, especially with the mixed nature of the location and the amount of traffic that's traveling on Old Highway Road at this location. So by a vote of 6-0, the Zoning Advisory Commission recommends the City Council approve the request, and a simple majority vote is needed for the City Council to approve the request. That's all I have, unless you guys have any questions.
Thank you, sir. We are in a public hearing to discuss the rezoning request for 5501 Old Highway Road. From Richard Beekler to rezone from planned unit development with PR planned residential designation to C3 general commercial, and the Zoning Advisory Commission is recommending approval. Is there anyone in chambers to address us on this? Anybody virtually?
No. No input.
Comments? Okay. Comments from council? I think we're good for a vote to waive the readings. Motion was by Russell, seconded by Sprank.
Farber?
Aye.
Sprank?
Aye.
Wethel?
Aye.
Roussel?
Aye.
Resnick?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye. So the three readings are waived. We're ready for a vote on the final adoption.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Sprank.
Motion by Russell, seconded by Sprank for final adoption of the ordinance.
Farber?
Aye.
Sprank?
Aye.
Wethel?
Aye.
Roussel?
Aye.
Resnick?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye. And that passes. That rezoning is complete.
Public hearing number 3 is approving a development agreement by and between the City of Dubuque, Iowa and Wilson House Apartments LLC, providing for the issuance of urban renewal tax increment revenue grant obligations pursuant to the development agreement.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Ms. Barber.
I move that we receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Wethel.
I have a motion by Farber and a second by Wethel. We are in a public hearing to discuss the potential development agreement by and between the City of Dubuque, Iowa, a little circle going around, and Wilson House Apartments LLC, providing for the issuance of urban renewal tax and increment revenue grant obligations in pursuit of the development agreement. Any conversation in chambers? Anyone have any comments for us?
Rick, if you wouldn't
I'm
mind.
sorry,
if I
Mike
did.
has a memo.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Economic Development Director Jill Connors is recommending the adoption of the attached resolution approving the development agreement by and between the City of Dubuque and Wilson House Apartments LLC, providing for the issuance of urban renewal tax increment revenue grant obligations for the rehabilitation of 1243 Locust Street. Wilson House Apartments is a subsidiary of 563 Properties LLC, a local architectural firm operating through the greater Dubuque region. 563 Properties has designed and renovated both commercial as well as residential properties throughout the greater Dubuque area. The key elements of the development agreement include the following. Number 1, developer will make a capital investment of approximately $1.5 million to rehabilitate the property. Number 2, developer must create 5 market rate residential rental units. Number 3, developer will receive 15 years of tax increment financing incentives in the form of semi-annual rebates. Tax increment financing incentives are estimated to not exceed $75,000. Number 4, city to award a downtown housing incentive grant in the amount of $50,000 or $10,000 per each of the 5 units. Number 5, city to award a planning and design grant and facade grant not cumulatively to exceed $20,000. Number 6, City of Dubuque will amend the Greater Downtown Urban Renewal District Plan to accommodate the issuance of tax increment financing incentives. The development agreement requires developer to accept applications from prospective tenants with housing choice vouchers issued under the U.S. Housing and Urban Development Section 8 voucher program that are otherwise qualified prospective tenants. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. Now, we're in a public hearing And when you see the mayor, by the way, remind him how good it is to work with professionals. This is the B team tonight in the press box. So are there any comments on the public on this proposal? Anybody virtually?
No input.
Nothing in your office? Anything from council? Let's vote.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0.
And just a reminder that public hearing number 4 has been removed from the meeting, so we will move on to public hearing number 5, which is the Tamarack Sanitary Sewer Extension Project.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Ms. Whittle.
I vote to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Sprague.
Motion by Whittle, seconded by Sprank. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. City Engineer Gus Sahoyas is recommending City Council approval of the construction plans and specifications with an estimated construction cost of $827,972 for the Tamarack Sanitary Sewer Extension Project through the adoption of the enclosed resolution. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
All right, we are in a public hearing to discuss the Tamarack Sanitary Sewer Extension Project. Are there any comments from the public on this? Seeing no one in chambers, anything virtual?
No input.
Nothing over in the clerk's office? City Council? Okay, we have a motion by Whittle, seconded by Sprank to approve, adopt the resolution and move the project forward.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0.
Public hearing number 6 is Twin Ridge Sanitary Sewer Extension and Lagoon Abandonment Project.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Mr. Sprank.
I motion that we receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Wethel.
A motion by Sprank, a second by Whittle. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. City Engineer Gus Sahoyas is recommending City Council approval for the construction plans and specifications with an estimated construction cost of $955,930 for the Twin Ridge Sanitary Sewer Extension and Lagoon Abandonment Project through the adoption of the enclosed resolution. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
All right, we are in a public hearing to consider a resolution adopting plan specifications, form of contract, and cost for the Granger Creek Lift Station Improvement Project. Is there anyone in chambers to address the council on this? Anybody virtual?
No.
Any comments in the clerk's office?
No input.
Any comments from council? I guess we're ready for a vote. The motion was by Sprank, seconded by Wethel.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0.
Public hearing number 7 is the Granger Creek Lift Station Improvements.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Ms. Wethel.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Farber.
We have a motion by Wethel, seconded by Farber, to receive and file and adopt the resolution. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. City Engineer Gus Sahoyas recommends that the City Council grant approval of the plans, specifications, form of contract, an estimated cost of $1,190,000 for the Granger Creek Lift Station improvements. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
All right, we're in a public hearing to consider the adoption of the resolution approving plan specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost for the Granger Creek Lift Station Improvement Project. Is there anyone in chambers to address us on this? Seeing none, any comments from the public there?
No.
No input.
Going on in clerk's office? Okay. Council? The motion was by Wethel, seconded by Farber. You can call the roll.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye. That motion passes 6-0.
Public hearing number 8 is North Grandview Avenue Pavement Rehabilitation Project.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Ms. Russell.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Wethel.
Motion from Russell, a second from Wethel to receive and file and adopt the resolution. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. City Engineer Gus Sahoyas is recommending City Council adopt the resolution approving the plans, specifications, form of contract, and construction estimate in the amount of $460,828 for bids for the North Grandview Avenue Pavement Rehabilitation Project. Project will include the complete removal and replacement of the concrete pavement drive lanes and replacement with hot mix asphalt pavement. The concrete curb and gutter will remain with spot repairs occurring as needed. The ADA ramps will be replaced and upgraded in a future project this summer. The intent is to reconstruct the main drive lane pavement this summer while school is out to minimize disruption, as this is a main traffic corridor for north-south traffic. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We are in a public hearing to consider the resolution approving of plan specifications and estimated cost for the North Grandview Avenue pavement rehabilitation. Is there anyone in chambers to address us on this? Anything virtual?
No.
No input.
Comments in the clerk's office? Anything from council? You can call the roll.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0.
Public hearing number 9 is Eagle Valley Westbrook and English Ridge Subdivision Parks Development Project.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Ms. Farber.
I move that we receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Sprank.
A motion by Farber and a second by Sprank. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Leisure Services Director Marie Ware is recommending City Council approval of construction plans, estimated cost of $667,330, and specifications for the adoption of the resolution for the Eagle Valley, Westbrook, and English Ridge Subdivision Parks Development projects. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
We are in a public hearing regarding the Eagle Valley, Westbrook, and English Ridge park development and the adoption of resolution for that. Is there any comments from the public on that? Seeing none. Anything virtual?
No.
No input.
Anything from council? Dan?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I did have some citizens that tried to reach out to me via social media and the Eagle Valley group area, and they did say they were disappointed with the plans. They didn't specify what that meant exactly, and I had said nicely that, well, you need to contact all of us on City Council or to our city clerk as to what those discrepancies were, and clearly they did not. So I'm not sure what the deal is with the Eagle Valley Park, but I'm still looking forward to it moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sprank. Any other comments from council? Appears we're ready for a vote. The motion was by Sprank, seconded by Farber.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0.
Public hearing number 10 is public hearing for sale of city-owned property at 2601 Jackson.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Ms. Wethel.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Sprank.
A motion by Wethel, seconded by Sprank. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Housing and Community Development Director Alexis Stager is recommending City Council dispose of city-owned real property located at 2601 Jackson Street, authorize the mayor to execute the special warranty deed for 2601 Jackson Street. The city of Dubuque purchased the property at 2601 Jackson Street for $30,000 in 2018. When the property was acquired, it was determined that the best use for the structure, which was a duplex, was to provide temporary accommodations for families being relocated during lead hazard control work through the Lead and Healthy Homes program. The structure was rehabilitated and provided relocation for the term of 2018 to 2021 lead grant. Due to underuse, maintenance cost, and staff capacity, it has become less financially beneficial for the city to maintain this unit than to relocate occupants to alternative sites. In early April 2024, the property was listed for sale. On Monday, April 22nd, the city of Dubuque received an offer from Timothy Johnson to purchase the property for $147,000. The city entered a purchase agreement with Mr. Johnson on April 25th, 2024. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request mayor and city council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We're in a public hearing to consider the disposal of city-owned real property at 2601 Jackson Street and authorize the mayor to execute the special warranty deed for that property. Are there any comments from the public on that? Anything virtual?
No.
Anything in the office?
I'll just note for the record that Catherine Sorensen of 2613 Jackson Street spoke during the public input portion of the May 6th City Council meeting regarding this public hearing, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Anything from council? I believe we're ready for a vote.
Farber?
Aye.
Sprank?
Aye.
Wethel?
Aye.
Roussel?
Aye.
Resnick?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye. Motion passes 6-0.
Public hearing number 11 is fiscal year 2024 second budget amendment.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Ms. Barber.
I move that we receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Sprank.
We have a motion by Farber, second by Sprank. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Chief Financial Officer Jennifer Larson is recommending approval of the second fiscal year 2024 budget amendment, which amends the fiscal year 2024 budget for City Council action since the first amendment to the fiscal year 2024 budget was adopted in October 2023, and adjustments to reflect new grants and reallocation of funding. An increase in interfund transfers of $298,298 is also included. The amendment totals $10,308,297 in increased appropriation authority and an increase in resources of $9,682,720. Additional revenues added in this amendment with offsetting appropriations are airport minimum revenue guarantees federal grant for $1.5 million, street signs and markings insurance settlements for $75,998, tenant-based rental assistance home grants for $84,625, Bloomberg Youth Climate Action private contribution of $50,000, Hyperflow pilot grant for $80,000, Harbor area maintenance grants for $417,500, Granger Creek Lift Station Improvements federal grant for $1 million, and B Branch Gate and Pump federal grant for $5,200,000. Reduced revenues reflected in this amendment with offsetting reductions in appropriations include the Library General Gift Trust for $60,000 reduced to the actual. This amendment includes an increase of $366,749 for Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, related programs. The increase in CDBG programs includes Affordable Housing Network for $528,100, Visiting Nurse Association for $20,000, Administration for $18,279, Capital Projects for $409,414, Code Enforcement for $2,500, Ecumenical Towers for $380,000, Homebuyer Assistance Loans for $50,000, Homeowner Rehab Loans for $125,000, Four Mounds Heart for $85,000, Low and Moderate Income Parks for $39,100, and IEDA, the Iowa Economic Development Authority, for $37,713. Decreases in CDBG programs include Property Rehab for $197,599, Broadband Cares Act for $19,456, Neighborhood Reinvestment for $926,490, and Lincoln Elementary Wellness Project for $263,632. This amendment also includes a delay in Public Works refuse truck purchases in the amount of $998,255, street maintenance reimbursements of $81,510, corrects housing choice vouchers in the amount of $80,279, corrects accounting technology services for $365,574, and corrects refuse collection grants in the amount of $19,350. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request mayor and city council approval.
Thank you, Mike. We are in a public hearing to consider the fiscal year 2024 second budget amendment. Is there anyone in chambers to address the council on the budget amendment? Seeing no one, anything virtually?
No input.
The clerk's office? Okay. Anything from council? Let's make the comment that we're 11 months into this budget, and this is only the second time we've needed to amend it. And people that don't understand budget amendments, that's all the things that we've done in between then and now that needed a little tweaking by council action. So we'll call for the vote. The motion was made by Farber, seconded by Sprank to amend the budget.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye. Budget is amended.
We will move on to public input. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting may address the City Council on the action items on the agenda or on matters under the control of the City Council. For all in-person attendees, please approach the podium and state your name and address when the Mayor Pro Tem asks if there is any in-person input. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function or state your name and address over the phone when the Mayor Pro Tem asks if there is any virtual input. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Individual remarks are limited to 5 minutes, and the overall public input period is limited to 30 minutes. Under the Iowa Open Meetings Law, the City Council can take no formal action on comments given during public input or that do not relate to the action items on the agenda.
Thank you. Is there any public input tonight?
For the top person in the room. Hello, my name is Nina Urba. I live on 180 West 15th Street, and I would like to address the council on the matter of the Dubuque Brewery building on Jackson Street, which is a textbook example of why public trust in government is so low right now, because this has been a boondoggle from beginning to end, but this new development really takes the cake. For years, the owner of the building, Steve Emerson, has tried to work with the city council to make something of the old building and has failed to do so, resulting in the building deteriorating into a legitimate public safety threat. And belatedly, we have now seen the destruction of a partial demolition of the building, which is a welcome development considering the threat that it poses to public safety. However, Mr. Emerson is now asking the city government to give him $250,000 as a means to donate, to salvage some of the materials from that building and donate them to local nonprofits. This is offensive on two fronts. The first one, how rich is Mr. Emerson? What's his net worth? Is his net worth public information? Because if the answer is yes, and we find that his net worth is in the dimensions of 7 figures or more, then the obvious answer should be about how you vote on this matter. The second part is that the amount of money that he's asking for, $250,000 for this endeavor, is taxpayer money. It is our money. And as a taxpayer, I don't mind my tax dollars going towards services that the city provides, but I fail to see how this presents an example of how our tax dollars are being spent wisely. I am not, to be clear, I am not in objection to the actual endeavor of taking these materials and donating them to nonprofits in which they could be used for a better cause. What I am against and what I am so very tired of are rich people walking into cities and bending city governments to their will to give them money for whatever their heart desires. The most egregious example we have seen of this is with sports stadiums across the country, and this is not on this level. But this is still $250,000 we're talking about here, which could be spent for much more, better endeavors. Think of all the solar panels we could install with this money. Think of all the roads we could fix. Think of all the trees we could plant. So please, if it comes to light that Mr. Emerson has the money that he has to be able to take these materials and donate them himself, then the obvious answer should be no. The city council should not allow taxpayers to foot the bill for something that should not have come to this conclusion in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Do we have anything virtually?
We do not.
No written input.
Yeah, I have a comment.
I'm sorry, who was that?
This is Kyle Fitzgerald, 13750 Nolan Lane.
Hi, Kyle.
Am I open to speak?
Yeah, it's all yours, Kyle. Thank you.
All right. Well, yeah, dear members of the council, I appreciate you taking the time here. I think I'm just going to read a written response to this. My name is Kyle Fitzgerald. I live at 13750 Nolan Lane, Piasta, Iowa. I'm the founder of Fitzgerald Deconstruction and Reuse. I've had the privilege of working on multiple projects in our community. It just came to light, the letter that was written by Steve Emerson and using my company's name regarding the efforts here. And I want to be clear that I am under no contractual arrangement with Mr. Emerson, and I would recommend that the council vote no to this proposal. I think that currently there are some challenges on that site that need to be addressed. I think that we need to give, recognize the city staff for their role in taking care of, this project from the start. And really the housing officials have put a lot of time into this and moving this forward. I don't think Steve is a bad guy. I think his heart was in the right place when he purchased this building. However, the way in which this is unfolded is beyond, it's not in a professional manner. So without being able to read this properly, I'll just say that I think that more considerations need to be drawn before our city commits to an investment here. And I have no intention to be working on that project until otherwise under contract for any reasons. So I think there's valuable materials there. It's unfortunate we lost that building, but it is what it is. It needs to be cleaned up and the site needs to be brought to a safe condition so that the people of the North End who've put up with this project for, a long time can rest easy and see that this is handled appropriately. So without giving any more comment, I think that the city knows what to do here and we'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate you chiming in. Any other comments from anybody else out there virtually that we're missing?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, we'll bring it to council. We don't have a recommendation other than receive and file.
I will just announce that the title of that action item, just because that was public input. And so we're just closing public input and then moving into action items. So action item number 1 is funding request for 3000 Jackson Street, Dubuque Brewing and Malting Building.
Thank you, Adrian.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Mr. Sell.
I move to receive and file and discuss among council.
Second by Wethel.
Motion by Roussel, second by Wethel to discuss this, receive and file and discuss the situation. Who wants to start?
I will.
Go ahead.
Oh, thanks. Well, I think it's a nice idea to help nonprofits whenever we can. I also think it's a great idea to divert materials from our landfill, but I don't think that this particular idea is a reasonable one. I think the city has already invested so much in this project. And one question is, where would we take this $250,000 from? What projects would we not do so that we could do this? How would we determine which nonprofits we'd want to help? There's so many questions. And something like this, I believe, should have been considered much earlier in the process. I don't think it's reasonable or practical to expect a nonprofit to take salvage material and then develop a fundraiser around it. Would they even have the capacity to store this material until they could get rid of it? I think it would be more efficient and effective to utilize the salvage buyers who already have expertise in this concept. And if someone along the way has the willingness to help a nonprofit, let them work directly with the nonprofit to do so. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Sell. Go ahead, Danny.
My first response is no. And why is in 2018, the city gave Mr. Emerson's company $500,000 to do stabilization. Nothing happened until 2021, until the city pulled the funds back. And that finally got Mr. Emerson's attention. So no is my response, because we gave him funds to use. They were clearly not used. So, sorry. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Vato.
After recently completing our annual budget process, the thin line of funding our city and requesting the funding from our residents is front of mind. $250,000, $250,000, is a great deal of money. During budget, there were departments who requested no additional funding. The state has significantly defunded our community for this fiscal year. There are other incredibly important items that we need strong consideration for that we were able to only partially fund or nearly didn't fund as non-recurring costs due to the state of our budget. I'd like to review two instances specifically. Police Building and Space Study. The Dubuque Law Enforcement Center was built in 1971, and at the time, the Dubuque PD and Dubuque County Sheriff's Department had half of the employees that they have today. There are only 4 workstations for 50 officers. We were asked to fund $50,000 for a building and space study in an effort to chart a course forward in the future of our police department. A top priority is police department and full staffing. What we need to be asking now is, how do we get there? We have a long road ahead, and although funding for the $50,000 police building and space study was not initially recommended, it was approved in the budget. So we almost said no to $50,000, even though it made our top priorities. Second, NFPA non-compliant gear for our firefighters. In budget, we heard our fire department about the need to upfit each firefighter with National Fire Protection Association compliant gear to decrease the risk of exposure to PFAS and other harmful chemicals that each of them encounter as part of their job. I would like to thank the city manager for providing the following information that I requested for tonight's discussion. My question was, how many sets of gear could we purchase for $250,000? Our goal is for each firefighter to actually have 2 sets of properly fitted NFPA compliant gear. Right now, many of our firefighters don't even have 1. We have purchased 41, leaving 61 more to purchase, just to provide 1 set for each firefighter. With each set of gear costing $4,000, the purchase of these 61 sets of gear would be $244,000. The fact of the matter is, we don't have $250,000. If we did, that is where I would have wanted it spent. I'm not able to support the funding that Mr. Emerson has requested. I greatly appreciate the efforts and cooperation that he has made. I give gratitude to the City of Dubuque staff for their many efforts in moving this demolition forward and keeping our residents safe. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Ms. Barber, anything?
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues, so it's just a major ditto to everyone who has shared thoughts tonight, and I also want to thank Kyle and Mr. Erba here for their comments, living and working in the neighborhood, as well as being in the industry or in the salvage group. I think that what's major here is that the site needs to be brought to a safe condition before next steps are taken, and there's no guarantee that our funding would even support this endeavor post the safe condition, because we haven't seen it yet either. So I don't support the funding either.
Thank you, Ms. Barber. Mr. Resnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, for all the reasons brought forward tonight by the public and by my fellow council members, and many, many more. I would not support the $250,000 in use in this way. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Well, I agree with everybody tonight. I think I don't know of anyone in the city of Dubuque that has the appetite to spend any more public money on this mess. I think that we've done everything that we can reasonably do to bring the owner to the table, to bring the owner to a successful resolution of the situation, and it just hasn't come. I would prefer a stronger action than just receiving and filing this. I'd prefer to see someone make a motion to deny the request, so that it's a no, it's not a maybe, it's not in a file somewhere. That's up to you folks if you want to do that.
Can I amend my motion?
Yes, as
Aye.
the original movant, you can if the person who seconded agrees.
I would amend my motion to say receive and file and deny the request.
Second by Waffle.
All right. And I guess I'd make the comments about 20 years ago that council put that property into a conservation district because of the threat of losing the building when it was then perhaps viable. And the person who was attempting to buy the building at that time was buying it for the purpose of demolishing it to profit from the sale of the brick, because that brick was considered, at least at that time, as very valuable. Now, I don't care what Mr. Emerson does with the brick, but it seems to me that 20 years ago, if that brick was worth enough money to purchase and demo the building, that it quite likely still is. And I guess I would urge him to go that direction and see if he can recover some of his investment there. But I'm not about to provide any city funds to that end at this time. So unless there's any other comment, I will call for the vote. Motion was by Roussel, seconded by Wethel, to deny the request.
Farber. Aye. Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0. The request is denied.
Action item number 2 is ratification of Dubuque Professional Firefighters Association collective bargaining agreement.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file and approve.
Second by Farber.
We have a motion by Roussel, a second by Farber. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. Chief Human Resources Officer Shelley Stickford is recommending City Council ratify the City of Dubuque Professional Firefighters Association collective bargaining agreement to become effective on July 1st, 2024. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Okay. We have a motion by Farber, seconded by Sprank, to ratify the DPFFA contract. Any conversation at the table? I believe we're ready for a vote.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Wethel.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye. And we'll just say good work, everybody. That was good work on behalf of good work for the firefighters, good work for the city team. We came to a voluntary settlement, which is always the best place to be and the fairest place to be.
Action item number 3 is Railroad Quiet Zone Study recommendations and request for approval to submit a consolidated rail infrastructure and safety improvements grant to the Federal Railroad Administration.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Mr. Sprank.
I motion that we receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Wethel.
Motion by Sprank, second by Wethel. Mike, please.
Thank you. City Manager Mike Van Milligan. City Engineer Gus Sahoyas is recommending that the city submit a consolidated rail infrastructure and safety improvements grant to the U.S. Department of Transportation Federal Railroad Administration. Canadian Pacific Kansas City Railroad Limited has provided estimated counts for the increased train traffic expected to be seen in Dubuque now that they have merged with the Kansas City Southern Railway. As a result of the merger, trains traveling through Dubuque will at least double. On any given day in Dubuque, the Canadian Pacific Kansas City Railroad Limited main line that runs between the Port of Dubuque and Lock and Dam number 11 at Eagle Point Park sees approximately 6 to 9 trains per day. And that will increase to approximately 12 to 18 trains per day. In response to the growing inconvenience that additional train traffic will cause, the City of Dubuque has partnered with the Dubuque Metropolitan Area Transportation Study, the City of Piasta, Dubuque County, and the City of East Dubuque to study the feasibility of establishing a railroad quiet zone within Dubuque's downtown area and each of the other municipalities' jurisdictional areas. To complete the engineering analysis, Anderson Bogert of Marion, Iowa, or AB, was hired. The quiet zone study focused on the 11 downtown public roadway rail at grade crossings running north to south along the Mississippi River, plus the at-grade crossing leading into the mines of Spain from Marjo Hills Road. In recent years, local residents have filed complaints about the noise caused by locomotive train horns being sounded while passing through these at grade crossings. Current federal regulations require that locomotive horns begin sounding 15 to 20 seconds before entering public roadway or rail grade crossings, or no greater than 1/4 mile in advance of the crossing. This federal requirement, in combination with the number of public roadway rail grade crossings in the downtown area, creates a significant amount of noise that will continue to grow with the increasing number of trains predicted to be seen in Dubuque. As a way to mitigate the negative impacts of locomotive horns, the Federal Railroad Administration allows for communities to preserve or enhance the quality of life of their residents by establishing quiet zones. A quiet zone is a section of rail at least 1/2 mile in length that has one or more public roadway rail grade crossings in which horns are not sounded when trains are approaching the crossings. Quiet zone rules do not apply within a rail yard, such as the rail yard owned by Canadian Pacific Kansas City Railroad Limited, adjacent to Garfield Avenue, or the rail yard owned by Canadian Pacific, located in the South Port. The minimum requirements for crossings to be eligible for inclusion in a quiet zone are summarized as follows. A quiet zone must be a minimum length of 1/2 mile along a rail line. Separate quiet zones within a single political jurisdiction need to be separated by a minimum of one public crossing which routinely uses horns. Existing quiet zones may be extended by adding on additional crossings outside of the existing outermost public crossings. Quiet zones may extend across multiple political jurisdictions. Public crossings within a quiet zone must at a minimum contain a 2-quadrant gate system with flashing lights, bells, compliant signs, power out indicators, and constant warning time devices unless constant warning time is impractical and a Federal Railroad Association waiver is obtained. All private or pedestrian crossings between outermost public crossings or within 1/4 mile of the outermost public crossings must be part of the quiet zone. All private and pedestrian crossings within a quiet zone must be treated in accordance with recommendations of a diagnostic review team. After discussion with the Federal Railroad Association representatives for the project area, the Federal Railroad Association interpretations have been stipulated for the project area. Quiet zones shall be separated by operating railroad. For instance, Canadian National crossings and Canadian Pacific crossings shall not be allowed in the same quiet zone. Quiet zones shall be split across state lines and Federal Railroad Association districts. For instance, Iowa crossings and Illinois crossings shall not be allowed in the same quiet zone. The exception to the horn rule applies to public crossings. It does not permit standalone private or pedestrian crossings to be included in a quiet zone unless they meet the criteria listed above relating to spacing from public crossings. Only a public authority, which is governmental entity responsible for vehicle traffic control or law enforcement at a crossing, is permitted to request the creation of a quiet zone. The public authority that desires the quiet zone will be required to mitigate potential increased risks in order to keep the general public and local residents safe. The quiet zone establishment process requires that a diagnostic team review all crossings that will be within the proposed quiet zone. The team that reviewed Dubuque's crossing consisted of representatives from Anderson Bogart, the engineering department, Canadian Pacific Kansas City Railroad Limited, and Canadian National Railroads, the Iowa Department of Transportation, and a grade crossing manager from the Federal Railroad Association. To designate a legally enforceable quiet zone, the public entity must complete additional safety improvements within the quiet zone to offset the increased danger or safety risk from silencing train horns. Every public crossing has a Federal Railroad Association calculated risk number associated with it. The calculated risk is based on lane geometrics, vehicle traffic, train traffic, and safety warning devices, and incident history in place at the crossing. Generally, the federal regulations allow public authorities to create railroad quiet zones by reducing risk below certain thresholds. Each crossing within the quiet zone has a minimum standard of safety which must be satisfied under all circumstances. Once consideration for the minimum requirements has been made, the public authority will likely need to complete additional safety improvements to reduce risk below the designated thresholds. Input from the public was solicited via direct mailings to property owners who immediately abutted the at-grade crossings where safety improvements are being recommended. Several contacts were received because of the mailings, and representatives from AB followed up with each contact. In general, potentially affected property owners or businesses were interested in how the safety improvements may impact the flow of vehicle traffic in and out of their site. In the end, no entity expressed an opposition to the project. Input from the public was also solicited via social media postings distributed by the Public Information Office. The social media postings offered anyone living or working near the railroad tracks the opportunity to provide feedback via a short online survey. A summary of the survey results is as follows. Total responses, 457. Question, does train noise bother you? Yes, 73.7%. No, 26.3%. Question, has train noise ever negatively impacted your quality of life? Yes, 67.6%. No, 32.4%. Question, do you believe train noise can devalue a home or property? Yes, 85.6%. No, 14.4%. Question, do you support creating quiet zones in the city of Dubuque? Yes, 88.2%. No, 11.8%. The diagnostic team collaborated on what safety measures would be necessary to effectively reduce the risk associated with silencing train horns based on localized conditions such as highway traffic volumes, train traffic volumes, the accident history, and physical characteristics of the crossing, including existing safety measures. The Federal Railroad Administration Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvements Grant provides 80% funding of construction costs and requires 20% funding from local match. Total quiet zone improvement costs are $2,768,000. The grant is not expected to be awarded until the fall of 2024. If the grant is awarded, city staff will submit a fiscal year 25 capital budget request to provide the required local match, estimated to be $553,600. Currently, the 15th Street at-grade crossing is being studied for potential closure. At the June 3rd, 2024 City Council meeting, city staff will provide a formal recommendation for this crossing. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval to submit the grant application to the U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Railroad Administration for a consolidated rail infrastructure and safety improvements grant to assist with funding for proposed safety, efficiency, and reliability improvements to at-grade railroad crossings within the city of Dubuque.
Thank you, Mike. Council. I'll just say it's a big job. It's going to take some big investment. We're going to need some grant dollars to pull it off, but it's probably about time. So. I'll call for the vote. The motion was made by Sprank and seconded by Wethel to pursue the grant.
Farber?
Aye.
Sprank?
Aye.
Wethel?
Aye.
Roussel?
Aye.
Resnick?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye. Motion passes 6-0.
Next are council member reports.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. So I was very honored to speak at the Ken Kringle Historic Preservation Awards the week before last, and to congratulate all the different families and developers who had taken the time to help basically preserve one of our biggest assets here in the city, and it was very well attended. And then last week, I attended a meeting with the Office of the CIO in Des Moines for the state, and I was accompanied by Chris Coleman, Dave Lyons, and Terry Goodman, and we had ongoing discussions about the digital equity and inclusion grants for broadband for all and some other iterations of that for the city and for our unserved and underserved districts here within the city. So it's ongoing, but it was the first meeting for the group, and I think it went very well.
Good job. Katie.
On the 15th, I attended the Peace Officers Memorial Day event, and very somber, but dedicated to remembering those who have given their lives to protect us. And then I had the privilege on the 16th to go to Mrs. Michelle Tuthill's Irving first grade classroom and discuss with them what public service is. And so if you want a smile on your face for a good 48 hours, I would encourage you to go to a first grade classroom and ask them what their questions are and watch all of their hands go up at once. It was fantastic and a privilege. Thank you.
Very cool. Anybody else? I'll just say a bunch of us attended the employee appreciation event on the 9th. And Corey, it was really outstanding. It was a whole different thing than we've ever done before. And I think it was well appreciated. I certainly appreciated it. And I just thought it was way, way cool. Nice going. And attended the Travel Dubuque Hospitality Breakfast Friday morning, the 10th, to a record crowd, more people than they'd ever have turn up for one. People from the travel industry, people, innkeepers from around the city, people who were just interested, and a keynote speaker who was really dynamic and really helping to explain to people how the different generations of people approach problems and decision-making, and how if you want to make money doing travel, you need to embrace that crowd and find a way to do business by text, and do business in non-traditional ways, or at least non-historic ways, and get better at it. So it was a really great morning, and really a good-looking travel season coming up for Dubuque if we play this right. And the most critical thing for tourists coming to town is the first person they meet. It's that frontline employee. It's when you walk into a convenience store and say, hey, is there a good Italian restaurant? To not send them to the chain place. To say, yeah, we got a couple, three real nice Dubuque-owned ones that you're really going to like. And that sort of thing. So we've all got to be experts at smiling, at saying hello, at welcoming people, and giving people a hand and finding the things that are best about Dubuque when that's what they're looking for. Anything else? Well, we're out of agenda. I'm going to declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.